Good day, everyone. Today, we will continue our anatomy review series by looking at the muscles of the lower limb. We will use a separate discussion for the muscles of the foot as these deserve some special mention. We start by looking at the muscles of the buttocks or the gluteal region, and the largest and outermost of these muscles is the gluteus maximus. The gluteus maximus originates from the ilium, the sacrum, the coccyx, and the sacrotuberous ligament, and it inserts into the gluteal tuberosity and the iliotibial tract over here. The gluteus maximus is innervated by the inferior gluteal nerve, and its function is to extend and rotate the thigh laterally. Deep to the gluteus maximus is the gluteus medius. Its origin is the ilium between the iliac crest and the anterior and the posterior gluteal lines. The gluteus medius, though cut in this section, inserts into the greater trochanter. The gluteus medius is innervated by the superior gluteal nerve, whereas we recall that the maximus is innervated by the inferior gluteal nerve. The action of the gluteus medius is to abduct and rotate the thigh medially and to stabilize the pelvis. Deep to the gluteus medius is the gluteus minimus, labeled here as number 3. The gluteus minimus also has its origin from the ilium, specifically between the anterior and the inferior gluteal lines. It inserts, just like the gluteus medius, into the greater trochanter, and it is also innervated by the superior gluteal nerve. The function of the gluteus medius is also the same as the gluteus medius, which is to abduct and rotate the thigh medially. The tensor fascia lata, though not shown here because it is cut, is found laterally, and its origin is the iliac crest and the anterosuperior iliac spine. The tensor fascia lata inserts into the iliotibial tract, and it is innervated also by the superior gluteal nerve. The function of the tensor fascia lata is to flex, abduct, and rotate the thigh medially. Therefore, there are three key muscles we need to remember that are innervated by the superior gluteal nerve. These are the gluteus medius, minimus, and the tensor fascia lata. Our mnemonic is MMT. Gluteus medius, minimus, tensor fascia lata are all innervated by the superior gluteal nerve. Of course, we recall that the maximus, the gluteus maximus, is innervated by the inferior gluteal nerve. Moving now to the muscles more medial to the pelvic girdle, we have labeled as number 5 the piriformis muscle. The piriformis has its origin from the pelvic surface of the sacrum and the sacrotuberous ligament, and it inserts into the upper end of the greater trochanter. The piriformis is innervated by sacral nerves S1 and S2, and it acts to rotate the thigh laterally. Shown here even more medially and inferiorly is the obturator internus muscle. The obturator internus muscle. It has its origin from the ischopubic ramus as well as the obturator membrane over here, and it also inserts into the greater trochanter of the femur. The obturator internus has an innervation that is its namesake because it is innervated by the nerve to the obturator internus. And its action is to abduct and rotate the thigh laterally. We now go into the gemelli. the gemeli are actually a pair or a twin of muscles, starting with the superior gemellus or the gemellus superior. It has its origin from the ischial spine and it inserts into the obturator internus tendon. The superior gemellus is also innervated by the nerve to the obturator internus. We can remember this by imagining that the superior gemellus is adjacent to the obturator internus. Therefore, both are innervated by the nerve to the obturator internus. And the function of the superior gemellus is also to rotate the thigh laterally. Below the gemellus superior is, of course, the gemellus inferior or the inferior gemellus. It has its origin from the ischial tuberosity and it also inserts into the obturator internus tendon. It is innervated by the nerve to the quadratus femoris, more on that later on, and it acts to rotate the thigh laterally. Speaking of the quadratus femoris is this quadrangular shaped muscle over here, hence the name. It has its origin from the ischial tuberosity and it inserts into the intertrochanteric crest. It is innervated by its namesake, the nerve to the quadratus femoris, and it functions to rotate the thigh laterally as well. More key takeaways here. There are two important muscles innervated by the nerve to the obturator internus. Of course, one of them is the obturator internus and the other one is the superior gemellus. Finally, the nerve to the quadratus femoris innervates two important muscles. Needless to say, one of them is already the quadratus femoris, and the other one is the inferior gemellus, which is a matter of proximity. We move down and look at the posterior muscles of the thigh. When we talk about the posterior muscles of the thigh, there are only three muscles we need to remember. In blue, the semitendinosus. In yellow, the semimembranosus. And in red, the biceps femoris. This image, by the way, is taken from teachmeanatomy.com. First, the semitendinosus. It has its origin from the ischial tuberosity and it inserts into the medial surface of the upper part of the tibia. It is innervated by the tibial portion of the sciatic nerve, and its function is to extend the thigh, flex, and rotate the leg medially. We take into note that all muscles in the posterior thigh, they all act to extend the thigh, and they also flex the leg. But some of them, like the semitendinosus and the semimembranosus, they rotate the leg medially, whereas the exception, the biceps femoris, rotates the leg laterally. But all posterior muscles of the thigh, they all extend the thigh and they also flex the leg. Speaking of the semimembranosus in yellow, its origin is also the ischial tuberosity and it inserts into the medial condyle of the tibia. It is innervated also by the tibial portion of the sciatic nerve. And again, it extends the thigh, it flexes the leg, and it rotates the leg medially. Finally, the biceps femoris, like the biceps in our arms, the biceps femoris in the posterior thigh has a long head and a short head. The long head has its origin from the ischial tuberosity, whereas the short head, which is behind and therefore is not shown in this image, has its origin from the linea aspera and the upper supracondylar line. Both long head and short head of the biceps femoris insert into the head of the fibula. The biceps femoris is innervated by the tibial division of the sciatic nerve for the long head, and for the short head of the biceps femoris, it is innervated by the common peroneal nerve. The function, it also extends the thigh, it flexes the leg, but this time it rotates the leg laterally. And we can easily remember this because of its location. The biceps femoris is located laterally and therefore rotates the leg laterally, while the semimembranosus and the semitendinosus, they are located medially and therefore rotate the leg medially. Next, we go in front to examine the anterior muscles of the thigh, starting with the iliacus over here in green. The iliacus has its origin from the iliac fossa and the ala of the sacrum, and it inserts into the lesser trochanter of the femur. It is innervated by the femoral nerve. Actually, all of the anterior muscles of the thigh are innervated by the femoral nerve, so it's easy to remember. And the function of the iliacus is to flex the thigh together with the psoas major. The psoas major is actually adjacent to the iliacus. So the psoas major descends along the abdomen, and eventually it will fuse with the iliacus over here into a single muscle known as the iliopsoas, which is the conjoinment or the combination of the iliacus and the psoas major inferiorly. We look at this peculiar strap-shaped muscle over here in purple. This is the sartorius. The sartorius has its origin from the ascis, the anterior superior iliac spine, and it inserts into the upper medial side of the tibia. Again, also innervated by the femoral nerve, and the sartorius acts to flex and rotate the thigh laterally, as well as flexing and rotating the leg medially. In yellow, our third anterior thigh muscle is the rectus femoris. The rectus femoris has its origin from the anterior inferior iliac spine, though of course not shown here, as well as the posterior superior rim of the acetabulum. It inserts, as we can see here, down below into the base of the patella, as well as the tibial tuberosity. Innervated by the femoral nerve, the rectus femoris functions to flex the thigh and extend the leg. Our fourth muscle, here in carnation red, is the vastus medialis. As the name implies, it's located medially, and its origin is the intertrochanteric line, the linea aspera, and the medial intermuscular septum. The vastus medialis inserts into the medial side of the patella, as well as the tibial tuberosity. Innervated by the femoral nerve, it acts to extend the leg. If there is a vastus medialis, of course, there is also a vastus lateralis. The vastus lateralis, shown here in blue, has its origin from the intertrochanteric line, the greater trochanter, the linea aspera, the gluteal tuberosity, as well as the lateral intermuscular septum. It attaches or it inserts into the lateral side of the patella and the tibial tuberosity. And again, it is innervated by the femoral nerve and it extends the leg. Not shown here because it is deep to the rectus femoris is the vastus intermedius. And as the name implies, the vastus intermedius, deep to the rectus femoris, lies between the vastus lateralis, and the vastus medialis. The vastus intermedius originates from the upper shaft of the femur and the lower lateral intermuscular septum. It inserts into the upper border of the patella and the tibial tuberosity, and once again, it is innervated by the femoral nerve and functions to extend the leg. The three vasti, the vastus intermedius, the vastus lateralis, and the vastus medialis, together with the rectus femoris, are known as the quadriceps muscles, the quads. We now look at the medial muscles of the thigh, starting with the adductor longus over here, the adductor longus. It originates from the body of the pubis over here below its crest, and it inserts into the middle third of the linea aspera in the femur. It is innervated by the obturator nerve, and its function, as the name implies, this will also hold true for the rest of the adductor muscles we will discuss shortly. Its function is to adduct as well as flex the thigh. The adductor brevis is a smaller adductor muscle located on top of the longus. The adductor brevis has its origin also from the body and inferior to the pubic ramus. It inserts into the pectineal line and the upper part of the linea aspera. It's also innervated by the obturator nerve, and its function is to adduct and flex the thigh. Larger and inferior to the adductor longus is the adductor magnus. We can deduce that it is the largest of the three adductors because of the term magnus. The adductor magnus originates from the ischiopubic ramus and the ischial tuberosity, and it inserts into the linea aspera, the medial supracondylar line, and the adductor tubercle. It is innervated also by the obturator nerve, and aside from the obturator nerve, by the sciatic nerve as well. It adducts the thigh, it flexes it as well as extends the thigh. Moving now to our fourth muscle, better seen here on the contralateral side because it is deep to all of the adductors, is the pectineus. The pectineus muscle over here has its origin from the pectineal line of the pubis, and it inserts into the pectineal line of the femur. It is innervated by the obturator and the femoral nerves, and its function is to adduct and flex the thigh. A small strip of muscle, linear strip of muscle, seen here medially, is called the gracilis. The gracilis originates from the body and the inferior of the pubic ramus, and it inserts into the medial surface of the upper quarter of the tibia. It is also innervated by the obturator nerve, and its function is to adduct and flex the thigh, as well as to flex and rotate the leg medially. Finally, we have the obturator externus, though unfortunately not shown here. It is also a medial thigh muscle. The obturator externus originates from the margin of the obturator foramen. This is the obturator foramen and the obturator membrane, and it inserts into the intertrochanteric fossa of the femur, which would be around here. The intertrochanteric fossa of the femur is the space or the fossa between the greater and the lesser trochanters. It is of course innervated by the obturator nerve, and the function of the obturator externus is to rotate the thigh laterally. We now move down into the muscles of the leg, starting with the anterior and the lateral muscle compartments. For the anterior leg muscles, we have four, starting with the tibialis anterior. The tibialis anterior over here originates from the lateral tibial condyle and the interosseous membrane, and it inserts into the first cuneiform and the first metatarsal of the ipsilateral foot. It is innervated by the deep peroneal nerve, also known as the deep fibular nerve, because a peroneal in anatomic terms is synonymous with fibular. The function of the tibialis anterior is to dorsiflex and invert the ipsilateral foot. In fact, it is the primary or the main dorsiflexor. Deep to the tibialis anterior is the extensor hallucis longus over here. The extensor hallucis longus originates from the middle half of the anterior surface of the fibula and the interosseous membrane, and it inserts into the base of the distal phalanx of the big toe, as can be suggested by the term hallucis longus, which pertains to the big toe. Also innervated by the deep peroneal nerve, its function is to extend the big toe as well as to dorsiflex and invert the foot. Adjacent to it and lateral to the extensor hallucis longus is the extensor digitorum longus. The extensor digitorum longus originates from the lateral tibial condyle, the upper two-thirds of the fibula and the interosseous membrane, and it inserts into the bases of the middle and the distal phalanges. Also innervated by the deep peroneal nerve, it extends the rest of the toes, and it dorsiflexes and everts the foot. Finally, we have the peroneus or the fibularis tertius. The fibularis tertius is the most lateral of the anterior leg muscles over here. The peroneus tertius originates from the distal one-third of the fibula and the interosseous membrane, while it inserts into the base of the fifth metatarsal. It is also innervated by the deep peroneal nerve, and its function is to dorsiflex and evert the foot. Therefore, it is easy to remember that all four of the anterior leg muscles, the tibialis anterior, the extensor hallucis longus, extensor digitorum longus, as well as the peroneus tertius, all of them are innervated by the deep peroneal nerve, also known as the deep fibular nerve. Moving now to the lateral muscle compartment, we only have two lateral muscles to remember. We have the peroneus longus, also known as the fibularis longus, which is over here, labeled as number 5. The fibularis longus originates from the lateral tibial condyle and the head and the upper lateral side of the fibula. It inserts into the base of the first metatarsal and the medial cuneiform, and this time it is innervated by the superficial fibular, also known as peroneal nerve. The function is to evert and plantar flex the foot. Finally, we have the peroneus brevis, also known as the fibularis brevis, adjacent to the fibularis longus. It originates from the lower lateral side of the fibula and the intermuscular septa, and it inserts into the base of the fifth metatarsal. It is also innervated by the superficial peroneal or fibular nerve, and it also acts to evert and plantar flex the foot. While the anterior leg muscles are all innervated by the deep peroneal nerve. The lateral muscles, the peroneus longus and the peroneus brevis, are innervated by the superficial peroneal nerve. Therefore, perhaps a useful mnemonic for this is SL, which can stand for sick leave. It can also stand for superficial peroneal nerve innervating the lateral leg muscles. And DA, DA because the deep peroneal nerve innervates the anterior leg muscles. Moving now to the posterior muscles of the leg. The posterior leg muscles actually have a superficial group and a deep group. We'll start first with the muscles of the superficial group, which are only three. We have the gastrocnemius, which is cut in this illustration. The gastrocnemius, a part of the superficial group of the posterior leg muscles. It originates from the lateral head and the medial head of the femoral condyles. And the gastrocnemius inserts into the posterior aspect of the calcaneus via the tendocalcaneus. It is innervated by the tibial nerve. We will notice that all the posterior leg muscles in the superficial group are innervated by the tibial nerve. And the function is to flex the knee and plantar flex the foot. Beneath the gastrocnemius is the soleus or the soleus. The soleus originates from the upper fibular head and the soleal line on the tibia, while it inserts into the posterior aspect of the calcaneus via the tendocalcaneus. This is the tendocalcaneus or the calcaneal tendon. It's also innervated by the tibial nerve, and its function is to plantar flex the foot. Finally, we have the thinner strip of muscle deep to the gastrocnemius. This muscle here is called the plantaris. The plantaris. It originates from the lower lateral supracondylar line while it inserts into the posterior surface of the calcaneus. It's innervated by the tibial nerve, and the function is to flex the leg and plantar flex the foot. Finally, we have the deep group of the posterior leg muscles. If the superficial group has three muscles to remember, the deep group has four. Starting with the popliteus muscle. The popliteus muscle originates from the lateral condyle of the femur and the popliteal ligament, while it inserts into the upper posterior side of the tibia. It is innervated by the tibial nerve. Again, we recall that all of the posterior leg muscles, both in the superficial and the deep group, are innervated by the tibial nerve, the tibial nerve. The function of the popliteus is to flex by unlocking the knee and to rotate the leg medially. Moving down further, shaded in blue is the flexor hallucis longus. The flexor hallucis longus originates from the lower two-thirds of the fibula, the interosseous membrane, and the intermuscular septa, and it inserts into the base of the distal phalanx of the big toe. It's innervated again by the tibial nerve, and the function is to plantar flex the foot and to flex the distal phalanx of the big toe. We remember that hallucis longus refers to the big toe. Moving more medially and shaded in olive green is the flexor digitorum longus. The flexor digitorum longus originates from the middle posterior aspect of the tibia while inserting into the distal phalanges of the lateral four toes. So the toes aside from the big toe. The function is to flex these lateral foretoes and to plantar flex the foot. Finally, we have the tibialis posterior. The tibialis posterior originates from the interosseous membrane and upper parts of the tibia and the fibula, and it inserts into the tuberosity of the navicular, the sustentacular tali, and the three cuneiforms, the cuboid bone, and the bases of the second to fourth metatarsals. These are all bones of the foot. The function is to plantar flex and to invert the foot. Thank you for joining us today, and in our next video, we will now focus on the muscles of the foot.